Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I know it's been a while since I've posted something related to medical school, but I'm finally back. It's like most of you guys, I'm also social distancing and in quarantine, but I wanted to make a video talking about the MCAT because I know right now that a lot of people's exams have gotten canceled, and I'm really sorry that that has happened to you guys, but I really want to encourage you to keep studying. Take appropriate breaks when you can, work on your mental health, of course, but don't stop studying for the exam, okay? So this is going to be about 10 tips for taking the MCAT, and I hope you guys like the video, so stay tuned for the tips. Okay, so I have my phone here. I'm going to be looking down to look at my notes, but a little bit about my MCAT journey. I took 2 gap years after undergrad, and after I graduated, I got a job immediately. So basically, I studied for the MCAT while working a full-time job and commuting by train like an hour each way. So if I could do it under those circumstances, I know that it's a little different for you guys studying during a global pandemic, but I really know that you guys can do it and you can do well on the exam. So the first tip is to do well in your pre-med courses. Of course, if you're watching this video, you're likely a pre-med already. You've already been going with your pre-med courses. So I would just say, if you went hard in those classes, that you're gonna do well on the exam. One thing I will say is that if anything happened during your pre-med courses, maybe you didn't get a good grade, maybe you got a C, for example, like don't let that discourage you from studying hard for the exam. Like you have time to get better and improve in that area. So tip number 2 is to understand what you're going to be tested on. So the AAMC has a big document telling you exactly what's going to be on the exam. So I would take some time to look through that document and make sure, let's say you're in the middle of studying for your MCAT right now, like take some time and go back and revisit to see what you've studied so far, so you can make sure that you've checked off all those boxes and you've reviewed that content material. Tip number 3 is to devise a plan of action. So are you going to self-study or are you going to study with a test prep company? So there's a bunch of test prep companies out there, as you guys know, Kaplan, Princeton Review, Exam Crackers, a whole bunch. So I would do some research and see which one you like the best and go with that. If you're going to self-study and just purchase the big bunch of books and the practice exams and questions, that's fine too, but pick a plan and go with that. So I personally used a prep company. I chose Kaplan because that was just what I thought would work best for me. I did an online in-person class. I guess it wasn't in-person, but like we had a teacher and we would meet at a certain time every week, and it worked for me because I was working full-time, so I could come home and class started like around 7 or 8, and I was able to study using that, and I thought it was very helpful because I needed to stay on track and somebody to like tell me what to study, just because it was hectic studying full-time, working full-time, so that's what worked best for me. If I could go back, I probably could have self-studied, especially if I wasn't working, I probably could have self-studied. So it's definitely doable. Just go through, figure out how many pages you need to read, how many questions you need to do, and divide that over the amount of time that you're gonna study for your exam. I know right now it's a little iffy with whether or not your test will happen, or if it's gonna get canceled. Again, I'm sorry, but just pick a date, study like you're going to take the exam on that date, and then you can reassess and plan accordingly if something happens to change with your test date. So tip number 4 is to definitely make studying for the exam your priority, but make sure that you prioritize your mental and physical health. So it's a very stressful time. You're putting a lot of pressure on yourself to do well on this exam so you can get into medical school, but you really want to prioritize getting sleep, exercising if that's your thing, getting some sort of physical activity, meditation, prayer, whatever it takes to keep yourself sane. You need to prioritize that as well. So tip number 5 is to find a study partner or a group. So this was to keep you accountable, someone that you can talk to when you're stressed. I had a friend I studied with. We both signed up for the same course. We had the same test date, and we would not always study together, but every now and then we would study together. We would definitely like talk to each other about how we were feeling. If we were stressed, we would definitely like chat with each other and calm each other down. And I think that was so helpful. So I think you should definitely try to do that. Tip number 6 is to not spend too much time studying content. And I know that that is a very hard thing to do, because you want to like read everything and make sure that you memorize every single thing. But I think that was one mistake that I made, was I spent a lot of time trying to memorize everything in the books instead of like putting that time and energy into practice questions, which leads us into tip number 7. Tip number 7 is to practice, practice, practice. You need to be doing as many practice questions and full-length exams as you can. So I used the Kaplan Q Bank. I did a lot of questions. I would do questions like while I was on the train. I would do questions during my lunch break at work, and I would plan to do the full-length exams and to thoroughly review. And that's the most important thing, to do the questions, but to really review the questions, because that's where you're going to get all of your knowledge and where you're going to confirm whether or not you've actually learned something. So definitely practice. Tip number 8 is to dedicate enough time to studying for this exam. Again, I know this is a weird time. I would say give yourself at least 3 months. I was able to do it in 3 months while working. So if you can dedicate 3 months without any other distractions, if possible, to just study for your exam, I think that is a good amount of time. If you need longer, obviously you know yourself better than I do. So I would just, get some advice from people that know you and know your study style, and figure out how the time frame works best for you. And again, picking that day and saying you're going to study up until that day, whether or not it's going to happen as of right now, like you don't know, but you need to act like you're going to be taking the exam on that date. Tip number 9 is this is similar to my other tip where I said don't focus too much on content, but number 9 would be don't focus so much on every single little detail. Obviously, there are things that you definitely need to memorize, amino acids, certain physics equations. Like, of course, you should memorize those things, but stressing yourself out trying to memorize every little thing, it may be more of a hindrance than a help to you. So definitely go through and try to figure out how you're going to balance memorizing those things that you have to, like example, amino acids, like coming up with some sort of like cheat sheet for yourself, or if a test prep company gives you a little booklet that has like key things to remember, focusing on remembering those things versus trying to remember every single little detail. And my last tip number 10, is to be confident. You need to know that if you've gone through your pre-med courses and you've made it this far in your undergrad education where you're about to take the exam, that you are going to do well. I know that if you're like me and you have like some testing anxiety, that can be like the hardest thing to do. And every one of you that's taking the exam, you're putting a lot of pressure on yourself. But I promise you, you're never gonna feel 100% ready to take the exam. Like, you're just not. I remember the day before my exam, I was just like, 50-50, like I'm gonna do this well, and also like I am so nervous. So it's totally understandable to feel nervous and like you don't have everything memorized, and you won't. But I promise you, if you put in the work, like you are going to do well on the exam. Okay? So I hope this was helpful, and I really was just doing this just to provide some encouragement to those of you who may have had your exam canceled, or things just haven't been going well for you. We're all dealing with the stress of this pandemic right now, but I want to encourage you to keep studying for your exam. Do not stop. Go hard. Take but also know when to take breaks, know when to go outside for a walk, know when to take some time off and FaceTime with your friends and family. I'm just telling you that if I could do it, you can do it. And I want to see that you guys become doctors, that you get your white coat whenever you apply to medical school. So I hope this was helpful. I'm going to try to make some more videos, but if you guys have any questions, leave it down in the comment section below. Hopefully like this video and subscribe as well. So thanks guys, I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.